Hi everybody, it's Diane Brennan. Welcome to my channel. And today I am doing the hashtag that Simon has done for his 9-year channelversary. Happy channelversary, Simon. I know I'm a little late to the party on this, but congratulations on 9 years solid. For those who don't know, I've been on YouTube for longer than that, but I've been on and off so many times and I've deleted so many channels that it doesn't show in any history. Because I actually started my channel, goodness, this is 2026, so it's been like 12 years that it was like December 12 years ago, almost 12 years ago that I started. But anyway, so this is actually my third time doing this tag. It's just the other two you can't find because they're on channels that have been deleted, or they were on channels that have been deleted. So I'm definitely hopping on this one. So this is Tarot Tubers A to Z Evolution. I love that. This is a really cool one. Nice twist to it, Simon. Great job, as always. I don't know how long it takes you to come up with these prompts. It's got to take a while because you do a really good job every time. And it is the start of ragweed season, so everybody please bear with me. So, the prompts. And grab a cuppa. This is going to take us a while. This is going to be the longest video I've done so far on this channel, and among the longest I've ever done, the other two probably being my other two VRs to these tags over the years. Because there's 26 prompts. So, we'll start with A, awakening. What sparked your spiritual or tarot awakening? So, interestingly enough, what sparked that was the fact that we have to go back into the 1980s, like 1985. I had a buddy who bent over to pick something up off the floor and his back froze and he couldn't stand back up and he was in pain. And he was young. I mean, you know, we were in our early 20s then. And I remember being prompted, like I was urged to put my hands on his back. And then I was guided as to how to visualize the energy, how to run it through me, where to place my hands, what to do. And I could feel it, like I could feel the heat build. He could too. He was like, your hands are getting hot. Yeah, I know. I could feel it. And then he was able to stand up and he was pain-free. But I will tell you that after that, I ate like I hadn't eaten in a week, and I drank and I slept like I hadn't slept in a week. It really depleted my energy. Now, the closest I know to that now is Qigong healing. That's how Qigong healers heal. They are using their energy, which I was using my energy to guide that energy through and boost it, basically. So every time I did a healing session on anybody over the years following that, that's what happened. Is I was exhausted. I would just sleep so solidly for hours and I would eat like crazy because I was boosting my life force back up because it was depleting it. And so what started my spiritual journey was actually looking for something better, a different method of healing that didn't deplete me like that. And that's when I stumbled upon Wicca and witchcraft and the goddess and this whole thing I didn't know existed. I was raised Catholic. I had a Catholic father and a Methodist mother. I had no idea. Even in the Catholic school, world religion was my senior theology class, and paganism wasn't covered. Okay. Shinto was. I learned about Shinto, I learned about Zen, I learned about Buddhism, I learned all kinds of things, but all the major world religions, but pagan was never mentioned. Didn't know it had ever existed. I mean, world history, I learned about like the Greeks and the Romans and all their gods and goddesses, but nothing that told me that was still something being done today, right? So, Catholic school, right? Go figure. They don't want to convert you back to paganism. And so that's what really started my tarot awakening, because then I was studying Wicca and witchcraft, and that led me into buying my first tarot deck because I was a practicing witch. And that deck was the Tarot of the Spirit by Pamela and Joyce Eakins, which is a very Thoth-based deck. Whoops, wrong deck. Very Thoth-based deck. So I don't have that deck anymore. I sold it a long time. Well, I didn't sell it. I actually gave it to somebody to be their first deck. And she started using it professionally. She's a natural psychic. So she's one of those psychics who uses the cards for the comfort of the querent. But like, she could really work with the imagery and the energy of that deck. So being as it's very Thoth oriented, this resonated with me, though, because back then, again, being into Wicca, I was following the Wheel of the Year. I was studying astrology. I'd been studying astrology since somewhere in high school. I've never been a professional astrologer. I never wanted to be. I could never memorize all that stuff. There's so much. And I have a good buddy who started probably at about the same time I did, because he's a couple of years younger than I am, and the age he started and the age I started would have put us at about the same year for starting to do it. But he's a professional because he really got into it. And I was kind of like on the surface all the time, and still am. He's my, he's the person I call. But all of this, the decans and all of this stuff was really resonating with me at the time, except for the Kabbalah thing. But, and I was struggling with that. This is a hard place to start your tarot journey, okay? And the big book for the Tarot of the Spirit is a very complex book. And I was kind of overwhelmed. Like, I had to learn all this stuff. I had to really learn my astrology. I had to learn numerology. I had to learn Kabbalah in order to read tarot. And that was extremely overwhelming. And it made it so that I struggled for years. Now, I didn't know when I picked out my next deck, and it was much simpler, that it was because that was a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Or based. It wasn't the Rider-Waite-Smith. It was actually the Medicine Woman Tarot, which is very RWS based. It took me a long time to figure that out, that there were these two different Golden Dawn systems and stuff. It was years before I learned that. When I did, I kind of stuck more Rider-Waite-Smith. That is where it got sparked and started, was that healing journey that led me to Wicca and witchcraft, that led me to tarot. Because I was hanging out with other people who was like, what are those? Actually, it led me to a shop where I bought my first deck, and I'd actually never, ever, ever had a tarot reading. I hadn't really had any experience with any kind of tarot cards or anything at that point. But it was this thing in the shop, and I was like, oh my God, what are those? So, beliefs. What core beliefs guide your practice today? So, with tarot, my core belief is actually very, very simple, solid, and straight. I read the Tarot de Marseille now. I don't read any of that esoteric stuff with tarot at all. I simply read the cards. We're going to talk more in depth about that later on down into some of the other questions. All right, so that's kind of, but my core belief has to do spiritually with nature and God, spirit, the universe. As above, so below is a core belief that guides my practice today. and a belief in the interconnectedness of all of us. Mitakuyasin, we are all related. I am you, you are me, I am God, God is me, I am the tree is me. Cards. Which tarot or oracle deck do I feel most connected to right now? Nobody who's been watching my videos is going to be surprised at this one whit, because I'm going to do both the tarot and an oracle. The tarot deck, the ever so lovely Metanoia Marseille, still absolutely the one I'm most connected to right now. Now, I have one that I'm going to be working to connect with in the same way, and that is the Matronua. Yeah, I said it right. Okay. Which at this point I have rounded the corners, I've soaped it, I have it ready to go. I'm going to be starting to work with this a little bit. I don't do a lot of readings for myself, but I'm going to be doing some, just some simple readings, I guess, basically just to work with and connect with the deck, because this and the tableau version are going to become my working decks on the fall equinox. This deck is also soaped so that it would slide better. But the Metanoia Marseille, this is the deck that I am most connected with in the tarot. Oracle deck is the Wisdom of the Oracle, which I've trimmed. I hate white edges. These are my working pair. Okay, actually I use the mini version of the Metanoia the most. But at fairs or in-person readings, then I use the larger version. It just depends on the setting and how much space I have. But this is, I bought the mini of this and I don't like how it shuffles, so I tend to, even with the mini Metanoia, I tend to use the regular size Wisdom of the Oracle just because. So it's very intuitive. I'm very connected into this deck. I need to find a deck that I have that connection with to go with the Matronua. All right, daily practice. I do have a daily spiritual or tarot routine. So my spiritual routine actually starts first thing when my alarm goes off at 6 o'clock in the morning, or before that if I'm laying there in bed awake, because I can roll and hit the alarm off while I'm doing my self-healing. So my spiritual routine starts in bed in the morning, first thing, doing my self-healing with Reiki and energy. I run more than just Reiki when I'm doing that. All of my energy healing has way more than Reiki woven in. And I just let the Reiki be the guide. I then go ahead, get up, do my morning, brush teeth, shower, dress, all that stuff. And then I come out and I do my stretching, yoga, and workout combo routine. Then I come into my office, turn on my computer, play some forest sounds while I meditate. And I have a 2-part meditation, one on the floor in front of my altar, cross-legged, and the other one up here because it's on my computer. So sitting here at my desk. And then I finish that morning routine off by drawing my cards. And I have a candle lit the entire time. I've got those forest sounds going on my computer. And so that is my daily spiritual and tarot practice. So it takes me 3 hours before that is completed. And then I start cooking my breakfast. That's typically at about 9 o'clock. That's when my Do Not Disturb turns off on my phone and the world is allowed in. Prior to that, I have 12 hours of the day from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. There's very few people that can reach me, and it's because I know that they know what a life and death emergency is, and they're my children, and they need to be able to reach me if something happens. Nobody else. The rest of the world not allowed. I don't typically get out of my house until about 11 o'clock because I have a 1 hour eating window for the day and a 23-hour fast. I do what's called 1 meal a day, or OMAD, with the carnivore. And it's a beautiful thing that I have a life that allows me to do that. But that is something that it has evolved to over time. So evolution, here we go with the evolution. That is a practice that has evolved over time. Now, how has my tarot practice evolved over time? It is now a 3-card. It used to be 1 tarot card, 1 oracle card, and 1 rune. It is now 4 tarot cards, because it's the top 3 and the bottom 1, an oracle card, and a rune. And I've played with different formats, and that's the one that is working the best for me right now. Doesn't mean it won't change again someday. I don't know. I've changed it here and there, but I like that combination. The 3 voices work well together. And if I'm doing Lenormand instead of tarot, and I've done that, then it's the 3 Lenormand cards off the top of the pack, the 1 at the bottom, the oracle card, and the rune. It still does the same thing. My all-time favorite deck, and why. Now, we're going to go back to the Metanoia Marseille. Again, shouldn't be any surprise to anybody. And why, though? Why is because of Carrie's take on the Marseille. It's still very traditional. All of the flourishes and flowering, all of those elements that are traditional are still there. The back is absolutely reversible if you are one who reads reversals in Marseille, which makes no sense to me because most of the cards you can't tell. Only quartz majors and suits like the cups. But whatever. You do you, boo. I'll do me. It's these soft pastel backs. The lovely coloration, because it's very jewel-toned coloring against these pastels. Men and women love this deck. It's been a great reader professionally and personally. It's soft. It's not garish and vivid and hard on the eyes. So this is an easy one for me to read. I have trouble with things. I can't do black and white decks. I've tried. I can't do them. I have to have color. I can't do, like, the first deck I ever bought was the Gold Box Rider-Waite-Smith, and I pulled out those cards. I looked through them. I said, what the heck is this? I put it in its box. I never touched it. It disappeared in the move to Hawaii back in the back in the 90s, mid 90s. And I just couldn't. I now have the mini universal, or the pocket universal weight. That's the only one I can stand the coloring of for that deck. I'm sorry. I've tried others. So it's these soft colors, and then I'll try to get to some that show the other touch that I really love. The contemporariness of this in some of these cards, where they're kind of updated dress. Some of them are kind of more older school like this, but then there's some that are a little more contemporary dress. But see those like wispy aqua flourishes in the background behind the flowers? I like those. And then this wispy, like that looks like steam coming off of hot cocoa or something to me. I love these little flourishes. And then I adore this. This is my absolute all-time favorite Queen of Batons. She's got that soft queen energy. Look at her in the pink, but she has like this big fountain pen. She's ready to sign some contracts. She is definitely the boss and ready to work. She makes me think of like an HR manager. I mean, look at that take on the moon. It's such a lovely and comforting deck. People who are new to tarot don't find it scary. Um, there's nothing to be afraid of there. Everybody loves this deck. So that's my favorite. Guides. Do you work with spirit guides, ancestors, or higher self? All of the above. Every single bit of that. When I shuffle my cards, I won't do the full deck here. I'll do it here. Just part of the deck. It's God, Spirit, the universe, my spirit guides, angels, ancestors, and higher self. What do I most need to know about today? And then I riffle, and I do that 3 times. That is how I shuffle the deck. So I absolutely work with all of those things. Every single daily draw, every private reading for clients. When I am reading on the hotlines, I do just a much faster version of that because I do a 1 overhand and a 1 riffle 3 times. So I'm kind of saying all of that in the back of my mind as I'm asking the question. Healing. How has tarot or spirituality supported my healing? I'll tell you what. Right now, I would probably be in a padded room somewhere with a coat that makes you, one of those white jackets that makes you hug yourself, going blah, 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 blah. Okay? Because I just lost my mother last month. I lost my sister this month, my baby sister, 10 years younger than me. It's the second time in my life having to deal with people's deaths and their affairs, settling their affairs back to back. Because the first time I ever had to deal with all of that was when my previous and late husband was going through chemo and his father died, and he wasn't able to deal with his father's estate, so I had to do both of theirs after he died. So I had them simultaneously, and basically this is simultaneously again. Thankfully my mom's was really super easy. My sister landed a mess in my lap. I'm not going to go into the details. But if it wasn't for my spiritual practice, which includes my tarot practice, I would not be dealing with this as well as I am now. I am grounded. I am solid because of my entire practice. That morning routine I have keeps me solid no matter what the day throws at me. So that's absolutely been supportive and healing. It's what got me through my ex-husband, now my most recent ex, announcing he wanted a divorce. I've always been the one to do the divorcing. I've never actually had somebody do it to me before. This was the first. That kind of threw me for a loop. As much as I wanted it. So I got through that because of my spiritual practice, my tarot practice, my cards. I had seen it coming. I just had ignored it. Something I've learned is to trust the cards. All right. And my intuition. How do I connect with and trust my intuition with the cards? I've got friends who are psychics and mediums, tons of them, because I moved in that world for so long. I mean, I used to read at fairs. And before that, I did healing at fairs. I did Reiki at them. And then I moved into being a reader. The Reiki table was pretty heavy and difficult to lug when my ex-husband stopped coming with me while we were still married, long before he became my ex. He just stopped going to them because he was staying home with the dogs and taking care of them while I was gone for the day. And he had worked all week, and he didn't want to come lug the table and everything. So that got old after a while. The table for reading cards was a lot lighter than the Reiki table, I'll tell you. Anyway, I I've been told I am absolutely a psychic and medium. I have very, very strong gifts. I'm aware of that. They scare the heck out of me, okay? They really scare me. I'm not comfortable with sitting down and just being able to take all that information in. So I open up through the cards. That is my key to my gifts. It's where my comfort is. And I get messages. I mean, I'll look at the cards and everybody else could look at those same cards and never see what I saw, because other information comes in and I see the sentence in a way because of other information coming. Okay. I've gotten messages during healing too, but again, I'm really more comfortable with the cards. So my tarot or spiritual journey so far has been really, really interesting. If you haven't gotten it yet, you really might want to get that cuppa now. All right. Because here's the longer version of that tarot journey. So I started out with the Tarot of the Spirit. And I actually did my first reading ever with that deck when I took the cellophane off. I was at a gathering of witches up by Lake Erie in New York. So I was up in upstate New York at this gathering. A whole bunch of people that I knew from Yahoo Messenger, and then some other people I had never met, because like the one gal that was hosting it, her brother was there. And that's who I did my first reading for. With cards I'd never had read. I've never read. I knew nothing of tarot. Zero, zip, zilch. Okay? I had never, ever had a reading done. I'd never seen anybody do a tarot reading. I wrapped, I took the cellophane off of this deck, and he said, "Oh, will you do a reading for me?" And I was like, I can't. I just opened the deck. And they all looked at me and said, "Yes, you can." Really? I don't know a single meaning to a card. What are you talking about? But I did it, and I was spot on. Same happened with my Oracle deck. Did the same thing. Took the cellophane off. And the one gal, she's like, "Oh, read for me with that deck." She's like, "I love those cards." I was like, "You're kidding me, right?" So we did readings for each other with that deck. She'd never read with it either before, but she had read cards before, so she had more experience than I did. I've read for others since I got my first deck opened, okay? Then my next deck was the Medicine Woman, so that was a Rider-Waite-Smith. I didn't even know there were two different systems in the Golden Dawn. I didn't know there were three systems. I didn't know there were different systems, period, to the tarot, okay? I did not know. And different languages, different voices. I learned that as time went on. So that deck was easier. and I read using the book for a very long time. Couldn't even begin to memorize meanings. I was really getting overwhelmed and lost, because the Tarot of the Spirit, the big book for that, had the numerology, the astrology, the Kabbalah. I had all this stuff that I was trying to learn in order to read the tarot. And it was very, very, very overwhelming for me. And I was really kind of struggling. And then my 50th birthday, a friend of mine gifted me a Lenormand deck that I wanted, because I came across an ad for it, and I had seen a TV show where a woman was reading from a similar deck of cards that looked a lot like this deck. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's the cards I've been looking for. Well, she was actually reading from the Gypsy Witch, and this was not. This was Lenormand, which are very different. They're similar, but they're different. And they can look a lot alike. This particular Lenormand deck looked a lot like that Gypsy Witch deck. And so she gifted me that for my 50th birthday. And I ended up walking away from tarot, because I found that the language of Lenormand was very straightforward and simple and very easy for me to learn. And I loved it. It was so accurate. It wasn't even funny. Very down to earth. I still love the Lenormand. That is one of the other decks I use in my readings. It depends on what the question is that's asked, which I use. for 2 years, I put tarot completely aside. I got rid of all of my decks. Every single tarot deck, I got rid of them all. I didn't have that many. I had maybe about, I don't know, 8, 10. I gifted or sold all of those. And then a friend of mine started doing psychic development classes at Steve's and my house, because we were running a little healing center out of there. And we did things like that. And he was using tarot. So I went ahead and I bought the Wildwood Tarot. Was still doing the whole Wheel of the Year thing, the whole pagan thing at that time, witchy, I was still into all of that. And so that deck really resonated with that for me. And then, and I started to actually read professionally. I started to memorize meanings, learn the meanings of the cards, and then learned how to read them without having to rely on those memorized meanings. And I started working online as, professional reader and taking private clients. And then in 2018, I did a depth year with the Thoth. That was the only deck I used. I bought several. I had minis, I had regulars, I had like 2 or 3 trimmed decks. I've sold all but one of those. I got rid of my mini decks. I used them because I was doing them on camera, and the minis, it was easier to get like 3 cards up in the screen with a mini than it was a regular size one. And, it was the only deck I used for my personal and my professional readings, which is why I had to have so many decks. But that opened me up to 2019 when I did the depth year with the Tarot de Marseille. Masha from Musings by Masha and I ended up together in the course by Camellia Elias, the Read Like the Devil course that year. She and I bought the Pablo Robledo at the same time. And the Tarot de Marcella, which is still one of my favorite. I love that. I just love the coloration of that deck. It's like it's been around in old saloons for, a century or more. And I fell in love. I fell head over heels. And the way I read and interpret the cards shifted and changed forevermore that year. And I've never looked back. So that was it was a long journey to get there, though. I mean, I've been reading the cards now for over 20 years. And I've been reading Tarot de Marseille only, along with Lenormand Oracle cards, playing cards. Tarot de Marseille opened me up to learning and reading the playing cards. And that's where I have evolved to, where I've gone back to the very ancient way of reading the cards. And knowledge, how do you learn and deepen your understanding of tarot? Reading. I have read almost every single one of Camelia's books. I've read a lot of other books on tarot. And working with them. I learn from every single pull of the cards that I do. Okay. By the end of the day, I've looked at the cards and gone, oh, or a card comes up, it's like, okay, now I have a new meaning for that card. Like I have a new association with it. For example, I had I believe it was the King of Swords come up. And I was like, oh, it made sense because that day I was dealing with the funeral director for my baby sister. Mm-hmm. And considering swords to me associate with pain, stress, death, because, swords kill you, right? Spades put you in the ground. What does a funeral director do? He deals with dead people. He's the master of dealing with death, right? Totally made sense. So that's how I learn and deepen my understanding is like learning different associations when the cards come up, and it's like, oh, wow, okay. Never thought of that meaning for it. And a powerful lesson that tarot has taught me, trust the cards. Trust the cards. The day my mother died was in the cards. Now, I do my daily draw at 8 o'clock-ish in the morning, and that's for 24 hours till I do the next one. She died at 2 something in the morning, so it was within that 24-hour period. It wasn't that date. It was during that 24-hour day of when I do the draws. And I was right. Same with when my father passed. It was in the cards. I knew something was coming. It was interesting. I didn't expect it to be my baby sister being in the hospital. But the day I got that call, my cards had basically predicted there was a call coming. So, you know, I've learned to trust the cards. Even if I don't understand the message that they're giving me. But like yesterday's daily draw, I had the Queen of Cups looking straight at the Two of Batons. Now, the Two of Batons, I was seeing that as a partnership. I read that entire, and with the Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups can be like, luck, your troubles have ended. So the Queen of Cups was looking at those two cards. And the other meaning for the Two of Batons is the helping hand. And then the Seven of Cups was this change of luck, right? I had literally a Queen of Cups because that's her significator card that gave me quite a helping hand yesterday. It was totally unexpected. I never would have seen it coming. But when I looked at the cards at the, when she and I were talking afterwards, she was like, yeah, that's my significator card. And I was like, oh my God. It made total sense. Trust the cards. It's there. You don't know what you don't know. So the cards might tell you about it in the morning and it doesn't make sense to you until after you're looking back at the end of the day and it's like, oh, there it is. Myth or misconception, a common myth about tarot you'd like to debunk. Simon mentioned them. I'm going to mention them again. All of those ones, I did this all in the very beginning because I heard, oh, you have to sleep with your deck under your pillow. Your first deck has to be gifted to you. Well, I didn't have anybody to gift me my first deck, so I bought my first deck. But sleep with it under your pillow, wrap it in silk, always have it there, beside you, carry it around with you if you can, have it in a wooden box. It was this very precious spiritual thing. Cleanse it with incense all the time, pass each card through the smoke and all of that, right? I did all that, big rituals around the whole thing. Okay. Bunk. It's bunk. Every bit of that's bunk. You can buy your first deck. You can wrap it in whatever. I do prefer to wrap my decks in or put them in natural materials. If you know me, you know most of my decks are in bags. Like this one is lined with Dupioni silk. This is a cotton batik. This is cotton, muslin. I do have some more of this. Like this velvet is definitely. I actually think this is a cotton velvet, if I remember right, that she uses, and then Dupioni silk. I may have some velvety bags that are more synthetic. This one, though, I believe is a cotton velvet, actually. But even if it's not, it's got the silk inside. Leather. I have a lot of leather bags that I have decks in. So I try to keep them in very natural materials. But, they don't have to be that precious. Like this is one of my muslin bags. This has my Cantagy in it. And for an earthy oracle like the Cantagy, the earth song, that's perfect. It was also one of the few I had that was big enough for that big round deck to fit in. Now, what is your current focus in your practice or life? My practice is my life. That is the focus of my life. I'm rebuilding a tarot business. I had to walk away from it when I got my divorce back in late 2024 because I had to go get a muggle job. Ugh. In order to pay rent and bills all of a sudden, all by myself. I had to get an apartment, and in New Hampshire, those are expensive. So I needed a full-time muggle job, which meant I didn't have the time to do my tarot business and continue building it. Plus, since my name changed, I kind of like I scrapped everything and started over at that point. And because I did change my name, I took my maiden name back. I've reclaimed my sovereignty, my original birth name. And now I'm lucky enough to be in a position to focus on rebuilding my business and to dedicate to that. And so that is my focus of my life. And then my other focus is like my family, my kids, my grandkids, and claiming this house as my own now that Mom is gone. So this behind me pretty soon is going to be changing to pink. So this is going to be the color of the walls, and this is going to be the color of the ceilings. Now, if you know me before and you remember my aqua all over, I've done 2 houses in aqua, and I thought that would always be my color. But before the divorce, back in 2024, things were shifting for me. I was becoming very unhappy. So like I said, I wanted the divorce too. It was a mutual, really. It was time for us to go our separate ways. All right, we'd run our course together. And pink was becoming the color I was more and more and more drawn to. I mean, that's pink. Okay. So that's the color my house is going to become. My sons, they're gonna be like, Mom, your house is pink. Because my bathroom in my old house was actually a coral color, and they always said, Mom, your bathroom's pink. I'm like, no, it's not. It's coral. No, it's pink. No, it's not. That's kind of a corally pink, but it goes well with all my reds. It's amazing. And, but anyway, so that's my life, is doing this kind of stuff, okay? So my building, not just my tarot business, but my life coaching business, and maybe eventually setting up a room where I can do energy healing again and have clients in my house. Now that it's just my house, I can do that. I'm also going to be looking for like a couple of local cafes. There's one I've been told to reach out to. I just haven't gotten to her yet because she does like fun things in the evenings there. She likes to look for different things to do. And so I'm going to see about being able to do readings there. Once a week, once a month, once every 2 weeks, whatever. So, it goes into purpose. What role does tarot play in your life purpose? It is my life purpose. I really feel that tarot is, because it's even part of what I do with my life coaching. I couldn't do life coaching and not do a tarot reading as part of it. It's the, not during the free 30-minute, call, the discovery call, but the first actual session that's part of the package for my coaching, the first thing we do is do a reading about the changes that my clients want to make and look at the past, present energy. You go do that Council of 13 because it does that look at like what's supporting it underneath, what's on your mind overhead, the past, present, future of all of that. The as above, so below, all of this. And I look for, are there any blocks? What are the next steps? What is Spirit recommending that they do? And then I use energy healing to clear any blocks. So that's all part of what I do with everything. And, it's what I do for myself. It's what I do for my clients. This is my life purpose. helping people heal. Using the cards, using energy healing, using the coaching. I teach cartomancy. I've got my cartomancy series on here. This is my life purpose. Question for Q of the A to Z. What is my favorite question to ask the cards? So I have two. My favorite's really my morning question of what do I most need to know about today? And then my other is my yearly energy, where I ask the question about what do I need to know about the upcoming year. And then I have a 21 card spread that looks at the 4 main aspects, or five main aspects of life, and then has a key card. So that is my two favorite questions or favorite readings to do. But then whatever question you have, it's my other favorite question. How's that? Ritual. Do you have any rituals before or after readings? Just the way I shuffle. That's really my big ritual before a reading. Other than that, I mean, my morning ritual leading into my daily draw. Now, I am studying right now the Bardic grade of Obod, and that is to kind of get me back into doing a little bit more in depth with rituals, because I walked away from rituals when I walked away from Wicca and went into a much simpler spiritual practice where, you know, and going back to that E for evolution, I only follow now the solstices and equinoxes and the phases of the moon. So the solar phases, the moon phases. I do not follow the 8 sabbats. I don't do sabbats at all of the wheel of the year that most pagans do. My practice is based on something much more ancient, and what are very ancient Paleolithic and before that ancestors would have held sacred and would have paid attention to see like what was happening, and they would have followed those. My entire life is based on a way of living that is pre-agricultural. I do not eat anything besides meat, specifically actually ruminant meat. And I follow a pathway that goes back to our ancestors that ate that way. So I don't do a lot of rituals. With Obod, I'm trying to, get back into that. So right now I'm in the Bardic grade, and then next I do plan on doing the Ovate. And I'm sure that will introduce some rituals into something I do before I do a reading. And I'm looking forward to that, because I would kind of like to get a little bit more going with that. It's hard when I got away from it because I was doing so many readings online. So I used to have a little ritual before clients came in to the house, and another one like at fairs before the fair started. I always had a little ritual just to ground and center me and, tune in. So I think I'm going to start doing something like that before I log on for readings online. I can't do it before the readings come in because they come in like that with no notice. But I can do it before private client readings. I can do it before events, and I can do it at the start of my day. And so that's like my next step, is to get back into doing some kind of, at least a mini ritual, because I don't really. Lighting a candle, something, anything, right? Spiritual tool besides tarot. What other spiritual tools do I use? Okay. Let's go with divination tools. Are my spiritual tools? I use all kinds. I'll grab a couple here. Like this bag, one of those leather bags I was talking about, the little crystals. I am so sad that Kim Soros went out of business. Her and her husband made these gorgeous bags. I love these. And I'm glad I have several of them. So this has my set of runes that my my last ex, and I made out of a lilac bush that was on our property at our house back in Pennsylvania. And so the branches had been cut off, they had dried up. I looked, by the way, lilac is not one of the ones mentioned as one of the traditional things for making runes out of, but one of the like associations with lilac is divination. So it made total sense. And then I drew these on with a red marker to represent the red of the blood. Okay. So this is a set that he and I made together off that lilac. And lilac is, my home state is New Hampshire, and lilac is the state flower for New Hampshire. I also, let me grab it here, have this really cool bobber. Now, you know about dowsing rods. This is another dowsing tool. This is for finding metals. And it's a very accurate little tool. I do use this for, instead of kinesiology sometimes, and instead of a pendulum, I will use my bobber. This bobber is actually one of my best friends. I love this. I got this because of a gal that I was friends with that had this, and she used it in healing. And she also used it very much for divination. I mean, hers would whip around. Oh my goodness. Mine's a lot more gentle with me, thank goodness, because she had several of hers break because they were whipping so much. And then I have some other pendulums, but I have a pair of these. This is one of a pair that was custom made for me because I always had to wrap the chains around my fingers to get them to the length I wanted to use. So my good friend, psychic, medium, astrologer, my bestie, this has crystals from him, has a grade triple A labradorite, a sapphire, and then the findings are from a late friend of mine. She was one of my best friends in the whole wide world ever, who passed in 2017, and I had inherited her beading collection. So he used findings from her stuff. So this pair has very special meaning to me because it's got the energy of two of my closest friends in it. And was custom made to the length that I use when I do pendulum readings. Yes, you were. And so the other one is in my travel altar, and I have this one right here on my desk. I have more sets of runes. I have a deck of rune cards that were actually gifted to my ex-husband, but he just doesn't use tools, period. He was a tool-free psychic. And well, he is. He's not, to the best of my knowledge, not dead yet. A tool-free psychic. And so he gets attracted to tools. He wants the tools, and then he gives me the tools, or gave me the tools. Now he doesn't because I'm not there anymore. But I have a whole drawer here with, I have dice. I've got sets of dice. I've got black and white dice. I've got colored dice. So I've got all kinds of dice because I do that reading as well. I do charms. I've got a charm board. Oh, yeah. I mean, if it's divination, pretty much I do it. Except for, like, I haven't learned how to do seashells or bones yet. I'd like to. I still got a lot of years left. I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. And according to my astrology chart, I'm going to be as long-lived as my father or longer. So I got a long time. I've still got time to learn this stuff. And other than that, other spiritual tools, candles, incense, singing bowls. I have to replace my tuning forks. I couldn't find them when I was packing up to get out of the house from the divorce. And he said he never found them either. So, and he would have given them to me if he had. So I have to replace those. Because I do sound healing too. Crystals. There were crystals everywhere. Yeah. Name a spiritual tool. I probably have it. And if I haven't heard of it, let me know, because then I want it. Anyway, transformation. How has tarot transformed you? Whew. That's a good question, Simon. That was a good one. I guess tarot has transformed me by making me more open to looking at things a different way, to being able to see beyond the first impression of something, to see beyond maybe the meaning that I have been taught to associate with something, to expand and be open to other meanings and other interpretations of things. But it's also transformed me by, again, like becoming my life. It has taught me there's no such thing as a stupid question. Because if a question is keeping you up at night, then it's not stupid to you, is it? You're losing sleep over it. It's deepened my compassion for people, for where they are in life, and my ability to meet them there and then try to help them to work their way to a higher place, to a better place. You, for unpopular opinion, my unpopular opinion, and I'm not alone in it. Ina said something very similar from Taproot Tarot. Simon's and Ina's are the only two I've watched. But my unpopular opinion is that astrology is astrology, Kabbalah is Kabbalah, tarot is tarot, and they have nothing to do with each other. Nothing. Astrology, numerology, Kabbalah have nothing to do with how I read the tarot. Not at all. Those are all separate practices. Now, I'm studying numerology. I still don't apply it to tarot. All of that esoteric stuff is not original to tarot, and I read original tarot. Because those layers, and that is what changed for me in 2019 and why I walked away from the Golden Dawn and why I'm getting rid of most of those decks, because I can't read with them anymore, because those layers are so often integral to the imagery in those decks, and I don't read tarot that way because it doesn't belong there. It's not part of tarot. You do you, boo. If you believe those are part of tarot, that's fine. That's you. You read tarot your way. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. That's just wrong for me. Because in my opinion, those don't belong there. Values. What values are important to me as a reader? Respecting other people's opinions and privacy. I don't argue with my querents and tell them they're wrong. or my clients, even as a coach. I don't argue with my clients. I don't tell them they're wrong about anything. They're right for them. I value their privacy. I value their right to believe what they believe and to be who they are. I value everybody's right to all of that, not just my clients. I mean, that's my belief. I believe everybody has a past, and the past is not something that affects your future if you have changed something here and now in the present. So that's another thing as a reader. One thing I believe is that and that I value is this ability to form the future from the present, and it doesn't have to have anything to do with what happened in the past. I respect and value everybody's individual life. Like, I love everybody for who you are. I may not believe the same as you. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. We don't have to agree on everything in order for me to value you as an amazing human being who has absolute value and worth in this world. Wisdom, a piece of wisdom you've gained through the tarot. Learning to trust the tarot. As I said before, I've learned to trust the cards. The answer's there. Learning that everything in life is a journey for as long as we're alive. I mean, tarot is a journey. I don't know everything. I'm not going to know everything the day I die. I'm just going to know everything I could possibly have learned that day because there will be no more card pulls. So I guess a piece of wisdom I've gained is to always keep learning. Everything you do, always keep learning. And the X factor, what makes your tarot practice uniquely yours? Well, me. Who I am, what I believe, what I do, how I work with the tarot, how my guides work with me, my particular lens that I filter those messages through. The combination that I do with my readings, that I do combine tarot and oracle and often rune and Lenormand, depends. It totally depends on the reading, and I'm working into expanding this and in playing and having more fun with my professional readings. And so the next thing I want to work with is maybe throwing some charms during readings like that, and throwing some more runes into it. So I have kind of a unique reading style, and I'm still developing and evolving it and having fun with it. And you, how do you bring your authentic self into your practice? I can't not bring my authentic self into my practice. So I show up as me. What you see is what you get. What you see on my channel is me in real life. Anybody who actually has connected with me as a friend in real life knows this. I am no different. I can't be any different. I am who I am. And so, that's how I walk the world. And that's how I show up in my practice. And Zenith. What would your highest expression or goal in tarot and spirituality look like? You went deep here, Simon. Boy, did you go deep. My highest expression or goal in both tarot and spirituality. Well, again, this is why I'm doing the OBOD course. And I do plan on going through all the grades, all the way through to becoming a druid. And I'm working to get a closer and closer and deeper connection to spirit, to the land, to the world of spirit, the mystic, the mythic, just to go deeper and deeper in. And it's interesting because it's something that called, like, literally I decided in May to sign up for OBOD June 1st, and I did. June 1st, I signed up for OBOD, ordered my first course books, and my mother died on the 5th. And on the 1st, I didn't know she was going that fast. I mean, I knew she was going downhill. I knew that the end was coming, but I didn't know it was coming that fast. But back in May, when I made the decision, I didn't know it at all. Not that she was that close. And so, like, the time was right for this. I feel like I needed it at this point to go this deep and to keep going deeper and deeper. So my highest expression would become the deepest and most spiritual self that I can become. And that's a journey for the rest of my life. And it will be reflected in my practice and in my coaching and on my channel. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, my old and dear friend Simon, for this tag, for reviving A to Z again. I'll see you in another 3 years for it, hopefully still on this channel. Not planning on shutting this one down. Of course, I never planned on doing the others either, but this time, I plan on being here to stay. Much love, much light, many, many blessings. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.